Welcome to WeAreSC. This is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. Greg, let's get into our 5 things from USC's 43-38 win against UCLA in a game that, heading into halftime, I was ready to talk about a USC loss. This did not look like a game that USC was going to be able to pull out, and we'll jump into it. First thing, your player of the game from that game.
I don't know how you couldn't vote anybody else than Keaton Slovis. After all, he was 30 of 47 for 344 yards, 5 touchdowns. I don't think the Bruins defense would object to that coronation. Let's face it, the Trojans have won 60% of their games on drives, on the last drive of a game, and each one of them has the written, shall we say, greatness of Keaton Slovis.
Yeah, I would go with him too, but just so I'm not going with you, I'm gonna split my vote because I say it's okay to do that. Running back Vavai Malapaya gets one of mine. USC did not rush for a ton of yards. They ended up with 100. He had 110 and a very important late touchdown, and he at least gave them something on the ground, where the last 2 weeks there has really been not a lot there, and I thought he played well, ran hard, and gave USC something there. I'm going to go to the other side of the ball for my other guy, and again, there's some big plays from a lot of different guys, but Talanoa Hufanga, he finishes with 17 tackles and had an interception and was huge on that side of the ball. Again, it feels a little weird. You give up 38 points, and I'm kind of going with a defensive player on that, but I thought what he did was outstanding. Going to the second thing, your play of the game.
Well, if true freshman Gary Bryant doesn't run back 53 yards in the kickoff return late in the fourth quarter, they would never be in that position to have enough time, since for whatever reason, the clock mismanagement by the Trojan coaching staff left a lot to be desired. To have no timeouts left by that point, it didn't register with me.
You know, with so many big plays, it's interesting that I think that's the play of the game too. That is so difficult if you're starting with the ball at your own 15 or your own 20 or anything like that with under a minute left. That's a different drive, and so I would go with that. But again, to give kind of a different take, I'll say the very next play, the deep pass down the sideline that Tyler Vaughns brings in over a defensive back. That is not an easy catch in that situation. And I feel, you still had to score the touchdown after that. But to me, that was the game-winning play. That kind of gave you the confidence that, okay, no matter what, you're either going to get the field goal or you're going to get the touchdown to win the game. And I thought that was a huge play from Tyler Vaughns, who had a huge game. Felt like that there was kind of one drive where he was sort of the only guy playing for USC. And I felt like a few different guys carried USC throughout this game. And he was definitely one of them that had a bunch of big plays. And so I'll go with that play. Going to our third thing, the thing that you expected to see in this game and what we got.
Well, I was hoping that I would be wrong on what I expected to see, but I expected the Trojans to come out slow. They knew they were already division champions, but I don't see that as an excuse for not coming out that way, coming out excited to play. And I guess that was surprising to me, but, let's face it, this team has a lot of resilience. And the fact that they hadn't scored a touchdown all season, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter, the last couple of games, let's face it, the Trojans outscored UCLA 33-17 in the second half.
Yeah, the thing that I was expecting to see was that UCLA's offense would have some wrinkles and some different looks that would really give USC's defense fits, and a USC defense that had played kind of lights out over its past 2 games. And we saw whether it was kind of going hurry up and getting USC sort of out of alignment. UCLA scored a touchdown on that and forced USC to call at least one timeout, just based on kind of how quickly they were going and how they were able to do that. And then a couple plays getting Demetric Felton out of the backfield and really into favorable matchups there. Those were things that I expected the UCLA offense with Chip Kelly and with some of those key guys out there, the tight end, the running backs, the wide receiver, Kyle Phillips, to be able to do some things. And we definitely got that. USC's defense was pushed early, missed some tackles, just looked, like you said, just kind of lethargic. They looked a little bit like a team that found out that they won the Pac-12 South, win or lose in this game, came out and played a little bit like that early on, and UCLA had some offensive success. On the flip side of that coin, our fourth thing, what surprised you in this game? Kind of one of the bigger surprises for you?
Well, I think it was surprised that they scored a touchdown in the third quarter. That was, we can laugh at that, but they hadn't. And they accomplished that goal, and they, were able to make a big comeback. And that's kind of been their identity now. They are the comeback kids of 2020. If they win the title next Friday night against Washington or Oregon, whatever it turns out to be, you can't count this team out until the final score. So, the thing is, the surprise has become the reality. This team has a lot of chutzpah, a lot of spunk, and the fight on attitude.
Yeah, I was surprised a little bit. I thought that USC would be able to come out. I guess I was kind of the other side of you. I thought that offensively they would be able to put it together and kind of score some points early and feel confident coming off of that Washington State game where they would want to say, hey, let's get this thing going and let's kind of light this up early, and then just really not able to do that. I mean, that's kind of the big thing for me in this game is just how slowly they came out, where, yeah, you're not technically playing for the Pac-12 South Championship in this game, but boy, that would have been a massive, massive win for UCLA had they been able to beat USC. And it felt like for 30 minutes and even beyond that, into that first drive of the second half for UCLA, where they kind of go down and score the touchdown and go up 18. It felt like USC kind of wanted to be anywhere else other than the Rose Bowl at that time. And it surprised me that they came out like that, even knowing, again, that they kind of had the South in their pocket. And I think countering that first half with the second half, I feel like you've got to be really impressed. Again, there's so many things that you kind of want to beat your head against the wall on sort of some of the stuff that you saw. But ultimately, if you just sit back and kind of watch that second half as a fan of college football, as a USC fan in general, you got to kind of tip your hat a little bit to how they fought back and how they really dug in there, and a lot of the big time plays that a lot of guys made on both sides of the ball. So we'll flipping into the fifth thing, kind of a little bit of that, your biggest takeaway from this game, from a USC perspective, and really kind of, not that there's a ton of season left, but moving forward.
Well, what I take away is they have tremendous momentum now. They're in the championship game. They've proved that they have championship mentality and that they are capable of rising to the occasion late in games. And if they are going to win the championship on Friday night, they're going to deserve it. They've earned it. They took a schedule that was dealt to them, and they won. Not always pretty, but they still did it. I remember the 1969 USC team with Jimmy Jones and the Cardiac Kids on offense, the Wild Bunch on defense. They certainly didn't win pretty, but they were still champions, and that's all that counts.
That's absolutely my takeaway. I mean, I mentioned just now some frustrating things, going for two that early, in the third quarter, kind of chasing that point, and it looked like when you went for two again and didn't get either of them, it looked like that was going to cost you the game. You're up one now instead of three. UCLA kicks a field goal to go up two, but you just, the idea that there's kind of a clutch gene and winners win and you find a way. At a certain point, you just have to say that this team has been really fun to watch in their ability to climb back in and to get things done when it matters most. I don't think anyone is going to talk about this being a perfect team. I don't think anyone's going to say, hey, if they play exactly like this for a 12-game season, they're going to go undefeated. No, there's a lot of stuff that you need to go in and clean up. But boy, to be able to get it done the way this team has done, I mentioned it earlier, just sitting back and kind of, if you could rewatch that game now, kind of knowing what happens and taking a little bit of the in-game frustration out of it, that's a fun college football game. And USC was able to stay kind of focused through that second half and dig themselves out of a hole where that's a difficult thing to do, is kind of catch yourself when you're getting buried by a rival and rise back up into it. And I think you said it, it does give them a lot of momentum going into, maybe it's Washington in the conference championship game, maybe it's Oregon, that they'll see. Either team is going to have a big momentum and a big advantage in terms of being rested and being able to play a USC team that's going to be on a short week. But if you're USC at this point, I don't know how you believe that you can lose at this point. I mean, you have to have so much confidence going into any game that you can pull it out in the end. And so I think that was a fun thing to watch in this game. Again, a lot of head shaking, a lot of frustration, some nail biting, but getting it done at the end, I think says a lot about this team. We'll go beyond kind of 5 things. I want to let you sort of wrap it up. Any sort of, big thoughts or things that you kind of felt watching this game? Because it's tough to do that kind of quick history where this fits into this rivalry, but boy, it's up there. And the touchdown pass coming with 16 seconds left, it's 30 years ago, Marinovich to Morton, a touchdown pass with 16 seconds left that wins a game for USC. I think this game sort of slots in nicely with some of those big time USC UCLA games over the history of this rivalry, 90 games now.
Well, I've watched this team for probably 60 years, 62 years. And I will say that I have never been ceased to amaze me just how you can take the records, for the most part, throw them out, and have games like this, which seem to rear their head on numerous occasions. So I never think the game is over till it's over. And I guess the thing to say is this is what makes the USC-UCLA rivalry, an intercity rivalry, great game that it is. And I'm sure a national television audience stayed on until the very end, which is a good thing with Letter of Intent Day coming up on Wednesday. I'm sure some people were shaking their head that this was a good thing for those that think they're going to sign with the Trojans.
Yeah, and so USC able to cap off a perfect regular season, certainly not a perfect regular season for college football with what it had to go through and all the sort of twists and turns and are you going to play, are you not going to play? USC players dealt with that very well, and they go undefeated through the regular season. Again, Pac-12 South champions, and I think probably going to be favored over whoever they play from the Pac-12 North in that Friday night championship game. And so a 43-38 win for USC in their third last seconds really win this season. But I think head coach Clay Helton and his team will take a win over UCLA, even one like that, where it comes right down to the wire. So that's our look back at USC's thrilling win against UCLA for the victory bell in the crosstown showdown. Thanks for watching. For Greg Katz, this is Erik McKinney. Thanks for watching WeAreSC.